Don't be alarmed, but this comparison video will have two microphones, trust me. Just dealing with something and maybe kind of experimenting with a new style of making these videos. Welcome back to the Rebel Tech channel. I'm Justin, and in this video we're going to be comparing the Elgato Wave DX and the Shure MV7X. A lot of X's in that. XLR microphones from companies that have made USB versions of microphones. USB microphone of this being the MV7, and USB microphones being the Wave 1 and 3. So that's why the X is there, XLR. But the reason why I'm having these two microphones not on the same stand like I normally do on this channel is because I'm dealing with some buzzing around in my studio here. It's something that I haven't dealt with before and something that is really annoying. But if I put one microphone on the stand and direct it in a way where the buzz doesn't happen, it's like an interference, electrical interference somewhere in the room, and it doesn't make sense. But regardless, there will be bouncing back and forth between the two microphones like normal, but they're going to be on one on a stand at once, utilizing the quick release. So if you're interested in quick releases, I recommend the Gator Frameworks one. It's a little expensive, but once you get into the ecosystem, buying more and more is pretty easy. And also, the other ones that I bought in the past, they're nice, but they're a little bit flimsy. But regardless, there is a video out there on the channel about quick releases. I'll leave it in the end card. So without any further ado, let's talk about the builds of these microphones. Now, these are dynamic microphones. Both of these are very well made. I will say that both of them have a consistent similarity as far as how they feel. Now, this microphone, it feels sturdy, but it also feels a little hollow. But comparatively speaking, when you feel it, feel is really the only way I could describe the build of a microphone. Like the weight, the feel of it, both of these feel a little hollow. Now, most people that I've talked to and most people that I've discussed microphones with, they don't really consider build quality as big of a deal as I do. But that's just my personal preference, my personal opinion. I do take the build quality a little more serious than others, but that could be wrong, that could be right. The other thing about the build quality is the plosive rejection, which I'll do in the booth because I like to space out my tests. So coming out of the build quality, I really do feel like the MV7 has a slight edge, but in the booth there will be a tap test. So plosive test, tap test. So if you're interested in something like that or just that, just skip ahead in the chapters down below to the booth section. And if you have any questions, comments, or anything whatsoever, just leave the section or specific part that you're talking about before you leave your comment so that I know what you're talking about. So throughout this video, I've been talking about like 2 to 3 inches away from the fronts of the microphones. Now, the other one, the Wave DX, is throughout the tests that I've heard in these comparisons that I've been doing, there's not much of a proximity effect. I know that Shure microphones definitely, I don't know if benefit is the right word, but they can benefit more from a proximity effect of getting closer. So back to our spatial conversation, I'm going to back up a bit, and I was also giving you a little bit of an audio sample in my mildly treated studio here. Obviously, the booth and the untreated room are other environments that I do. If you have any other environments you want me to test or something that could be more similar to your recording setup, let me know down in the comments and I see if I can make it work. So I'm going to back up a bit. I'm about like 2 feet, maybe 3 feet away from the fronts of the MV7 right now. This is what it's going to sound like in the studio here, mildly treated. And maybe my fan on my computer you could hear, but I turned off the dehumidifier, and hopefully there's no buzz, because that buzz was bugging the hell out of me. That was really annoying. Alright, about 2 to 3 feet away from the front of the Wave DX is what's going to sound like in my studio here. Mildly treated. Alright, stage left. This is what it's going to sound like on your 90-degree test on the MV7. And mildly treated room, studio here. Alright, 90-degree test on stage left. This is what it's going to sound like on the Wave DX. 90-degree test again in the studio, mildly treated, all that stuff. Now on stage right, this is what's going to sound like in the studio here, mildly treated again. Now on stage right, I'm remembering my stage right and stage left again because I'm not a dummy anymore. I do work in entertainment and stuff like and event work, so I should know it. Lastly, rear 180-degree test. This is what's going to sound like in the studio here, about 2 to 3 feet away from the rear of the microphone. You might get some reflection back from behind the camera, so keep that in mind when you're listening to these examples. Lastly, 180-degree test about 2 feet away from the rear of the Wave DX is what's going to sound like. Maybe some reflection back behind the camera, but this is really just a test so you can get an idea of what the surrounding sounds will be. So Wave DX and MV7X. So X's. It's very sexy. Regardless of my inappropriateness and things that I've been... Knowledge that has come to me in the last 24 hours has been invigorating and just very confusing. But regardless of my mental dysfunction, or whatever you want to call it, Wave DX, I've been listening to it a lot of tests, a lot of things going on. Mental breakdown because my brain is frying. Let's go MV7X. Honestly, it's pretty close. It's very close. And if you're looking, I listened to this quick before, and it's, yeah. In post, I'm definitely going to let you guys know how I feel about it, but man, it's much closer than I was thinking before, which would lead you to believe that the Wave DX would be the better option because it is cheaper. But there are other tests to be done, so let's get into it. Okay, tap test, Wave DX. All right. MV7X. A little bit better. Plosive test. Yeah, everyone's been saying it. And I don't remember because people leave comments on these videos, and I really do appreciate it. But sometimes it's been so long since I've listened to a certain microphone that I forget, and they're listening to it right then and there, and they're like, "Oh, they're hearing it right then and there," and they're like, "Oh no, was that how it sounded or whatever it is?" That's how it sounded. Plosives not that great on this. Let's grab the Shure SM7B one. This is what the MV7X sounds like with the Shure SM7B pop filter, the stock one, not the big one. So, I mean, it's better, but I think it alters it. I think it alters the tone. And I think I said this before. I'll listen to it in post to confirm, but I think, yes, it does alter it just a little bit. All right, let's do a little proximity effect. This is what it's going to sound like getting up close to the Wave DX and more low end. Let me know what you think. And up close and personal to the Wave DX, this is what it's going to sound like. Next up, I'm going to do around the world and then go to the untreated room and stop sweating. All right, moving around. Both cardioid polar patterns. This is what it's going to sound like in the booth here. Going around to the back. Wave DX going around the other side. Remember cardioid polar pattern. It's all right. Seems pretty good. Now in the front of the MV7X going around. This is what it's going to sound like. It's probably a little bit. You guys let me know if it's a little bit better, this one. Let me know if this one's any better with off-axis stuff in a close proximity. All right, I'm not messing around on this segment. It's really hot. It's really humid. I don't want to mess around. If you're interested in the dimensions of the untreated room, this is a different untreated room, obviously, if you've been following the series. Check out the individual video or just ask me down in the comments. I'll try my best to get back to you as soon as possible. But if you're someone that wants it right away, this one. It's an untreated room, other side of the basement. Studio's behind me. So, this is what it's going to sound like close to the microphones, MV7X and the Wave DX. This room is definitely longer, wider than the other untreated rooms that I've done. It's also not a room that has drywall. It has wood as their walls. I don't know why I'm talking weird like that. I'm talking like an alien, but whatever. That's what happens when heat gets to me. I do not do well in the heat. I'd rather the cold, but that's just my Northern European blood, I guess, even though I have Italian blood. But regardless of my heritage and all that, this was going to sound like close proximity, where this is going to be your normal distance that you're going to be using these. But I do these tests to give an example of what other sounds outside of this proximity will be. So to the tests. All right, I'm about 2 feet away from the fronts of the microphones. This is what it's going to sound like in the untreated room. A lot of room behind the camera, the microphones, everything like that. It's tough right now. So keep that in mind of maybe some echo back, but it's really not too bad. It's a short ceiling, so that could be good, that could be bad, depending on your situation. Okay, 90-degree test. Both of these are cardioid polar patterns, so they reject the sides and reject the back, a little bit more in the back on the 180s, but we'll do the 180 in just a little bit. 2 feet away from the Wave DX, and yeah, so untreated room, 90-degree test. All right, 90-degree test on stage right. I don't know, I think I said stage left on the other side. If I didn't, I apologize. Just a little warm right now. And this was going to sound like in the untreated room. Speaking towards a wood wall, some masonite walls, so flat walls that could reflect back. I'll know more in post than you'll know right now if anything is any. Lastly, 180-degree test. This was going to sound like about 2 feet away from the rears of the microphones, and I'm still running out of things to say. Really hot, a lot of humidity. It is a swamp. I was down in Florida about a month and a half ago, and I think there was less humidity in Florida, to be honest with you. This is absolutely gross. So yeah, humidity, bad, man. All right. Well, now that I need to dry myself off from all the sweat, and yeah, don't need more like that. I'm losing my mind. I'm sweating so much. It's really hot. Time for an outro where I let you know how I feel after I listen to everything in post. Apologize for all the craziness. All right, so we have the Shure MV7X on the stand. It's my choice between these two, but it was pretty close. So I won't say it like by a landslide, definitely not. But it's definitely something that, just going through the points, which I will point out right now, it just had that slight edge. And the one thing that really stands out, and I will get to it, but the plosives. I know, I hear you guys in the comments, the plosives, it's not that great at rejecting plosives, but there's that. And then as I did a couple tests with the Shure SM7B windscreen, it's better. So let's go through these notes and different sections of the video. The tone, I felt like it was pretty similar, but the DX had a little more mids and could come off a little muddy. can be fixed in post, but naturally I felt the MV7X was a little more smooth. The build I felt was pretty much the same. They have a little like hollowy kind of feels to them. They feel a little like they don't have anything, they have a surface and then the inner crust is kind of lacking. But it's up to you guys if that makes any difference to you, because I take that seriously. Some people don't, which I understand. It's all about the sound of the microphone, not necessarily the build. Distance test, pretty much the same. And the 90 and 180 degree test is pretty close, but I give a slight edge to the MV7X. Now, that was based in the studio. Moving on to the booth, the MV7X is more open, airy, and the Wave DX is pretty closed in. So I'm kind of leaning towards the DX on that, because that honed in sound is what a dynamic microphone is usually known for. And it gives it that broadcasty sound, like you're a podcast or whatever it is. The MV7X, now granted, you can use it for a lot more stuff, at least in my opinion. You can throw it on a guitar cabinet, you could throw it on multiple instruments. But if you are a person that's like strictly like, this is the microphone I'm going to get for podcasting, whatever it is, you might want to lean towards the DX on that. Now, with rejection of handling noise, either one of these are pretty good to not so good. It's in that mid, like it has points where it's good and some points where I was tapping it and it was not that great. But I gave a slight edge to the MV7X. Plosive rejection, we know how I feel about that, and I agree with all of you. DX definitely wins on that. Then the close off-axis, I'm going to give a slight edge to the MV7X. And that was in the booth. One more thing, we're going to do the untreated room. Distance, slight edge to the Wave DX, and a slight edge to the MV7X on the 90 degree. These slight edges like that I'm giving towards these microphones could be construed as pretty like even, but if I was to give a winner, I mean, I could have gone through this whole thing and said it's the same. It's all like up to the interpretation of the listener. But I mean, I got to give my opinion. I got to give my input, because that's the point of the video. That's the point of you watching this specific video rather than the many that are covering this microphone. So last thing, 180 degrees. Very close but slight edge, again, to the MV7X. And that's why I came to the MV7X as my winner between these two. You can see and hear it's very close. These microphones are very close. Now, here's the other thing. The Wave DX is, I think, $100. The MV7X, I think, is like $150. That's something to keep in mind. That's something that you might want to consider. Like, I could spend that $50 more on, like you get a bundle from Elgato, and they think they give discounts if you build a bundle with them. And you get the Wave XLR, and you could get a mic arm with it, and you could save a little bit of money that way. But if you're a person who's just upgrading a microphone, maybe the Shure is more your style. And with the Shure SM7B windscreen, it's an extra cost, which gets it closer to like $200 when you really think about it. So got to weigh those options and what you like more, what fits you more. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you liked this video, please consider liking it. Down below, that thumbs up, I would really appreciate it. If you like my vibe around here, please consider subscribing. It's a cool community. Speaking of that community, there is a Discord available where you can talk to everyone. There's less than 30 people, so it's a close-knit community. But I check it occasionally. I probably check it like 2-3 times a week just to make sure that no one's asking questions. I do my best to get back to you guys as soon as possible, but with a job, I hope you guys understand that I am busy, and with life and everything, it's tough to manage this, but I really want to get back to keeping it as a regular thing in my life, because this channel got me through a tough time in my life. So I'm hoping that it could do it again during another tough time. So we'll see. And yeah, comments, everything, just be nice. That's all I ask. It's the only rule. Well, there's a couple rules, but that's the main rule. Like 90% of the rules is just be nice. Okay? I think we could do that. All right. I'm done. Thanks again. And I'll see you, Rebels, in the next video.